Hey, I'm Susan Russell, owner of Mold Dog Knows. Welcome to our podcast, All Mold Matters, because all mold matters, of course. I am joined today by Daniel Brenner. Daniel does something so cool that I wanted to have you on the show to talk about it. But Daniel is, he's branded himself as Dallas Holistic Realtor, and for good reason, because when I talk to you, you really care. You really care about your clients. And I want to talk about that. Like, tell me what you do, what you set out to do.
As a former health coach, I studied a lot about toxicology, and I understood it wasn't just the diet, it wasn't just the water, but also your home. And then I had all the signs to get into real estate. You can build a lot of generational wealth through real estate, but as someone that has been through smaller mold remediations, I realized that the industry is just not educated enough. So my intention was amalgamating that environmental toxicity awareness and the advocacy for what we call like building science, building hygiene, amalgamating it with the real estate market, especially residential, our living spaces, and then pushing that needle, especially holding builders and everyone even more accountable, which is starting to happen. They're starting to get building science niches with or programs within the building, production builders. But I feel like the more educated consumers are, the more we move that needle.
How educated are consumers? What are you finding out there?
I think because amazing businesses on social media that take the extra time to give away free information. I don't think people realize how invaluable that is and how much extra time that takes. The Mold Dog Knows is not just my favorite vendor for mold dogs in Texas and the nation, but you also provide a lot of information. And I feel like consumers are getting more educated, even in just how residential real estate works, not even just how the HVAC system and they're getting, because of social media, where it's instead of controlling the information, we've closed that gap between the information and the consumer, which is information can be very powerful.
Do you think, though, that people really, really realize the intensity, the importance of indoor air quality in the home they're buying?
I think during the pandemic, people got more conscious of air filtration, but I think a lot of people, especially younger generations, I don't think that they were properly educated on changing the filter every 3 months, pouring hydrogen peroxide or vinegar down the condensation line. So I think there's been a little bit of a lack of that generational hand down of home maintenance. So I think that home maintenance is lacking a little bit, which then affects the air quality. But then you also, controversial, I feel like the branding of some things like vacuum cleaners being bagless has created, everyone thinks that there's a specific brand out there that's the Cadillac, but they're the most fixed vacuums. And if you watch the YouTube videos of vapor going through, you actually are not collecting the nano dust dander. So if you've had a specific bagless vacuum for 10 years, you have micro dander everywhere, which we know mold control the moisture, control the dust. So I think there is an education of people buying air filters, but it's also beyond that. It's controlling the moisture and knowing how to maintain your HVAC system.
So it sounds like part of what you do for your clients is you're educating them?
Yes. And I have to stay in my lane. I'm not a mold consultant. But as someone that knows a lot about building science, I'm the only realtor that went above and beyond and got the building biology advocacy certification. So that taught me about lighting toxicity, electromagnetic fields, and air quality. It kind of broached a little bit about mold, but I've also learned from books that I've read, and Cheryl, the one architect, that speaks a lot about it. So I've taken a lot of online courses and certifications, and everywhere is different. I lived in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania, lived in Hawaii, and I also lived in Arizona, which is usually considered a safer space because of the dryness. But it'll exist anywhere where there's dust and moisture. So there's no perfect place.
Everywhere. So Daniel, tell me a little bit about your typical client that would reach out to you because of your branding, Dallas Holistic Realtor.
Yes. So I will say, unless someone's extremely invested, a lot of the time people reach out to me and they've already gone through a mold situation where it's this hidden thing, people think that you always have to see it. Sometimes it's not visible. Sometimes it's...
A lot of times it's not.
That's why one of my things I say, I free families from invisible toxins, because you don't... we live in such a visual world now that sometimes it's hidden inside the HVAC. So I get a lot of people that it's someone in the marriage and the family, like it's someone, usually one partner that's been really affected, one or two children that have been really affected, which I usually think that's probably from a genetic predisposition of the MTHFR.
And HLA.
So, and then they contact me. And so a lot of the times my clients almost know more than me because they have scoured the internet of every single thing. So sometimes I'm not maybe educating them on how builds work and how, like, where the HVAC location, how the grading of the soil, the gutters and controlling the water. There is the home performance, not just the home hygiene. So I still am usually providing value, but a lot of my clients are very educated. So
it's good to know.
Yeah.
What are some of the things when you are going into a home and well, let me stick with that you're looking for? Like, you may not even be saying it to your clients, but you've got your eye on this, eye on that. What are you looking for?
I would say I do a forensics tour. I'm not a licensed mold inspector, but you'd be really surprised how, with your own eyes, your own nose, and just a flashlight, just alone a flashlight, to just shine and look at all the water moving parts underneath the sinks, behind water heaters. Great time to tour homes is when it's raining, to see where the water is going. So spring's a good time, but it's going to be the most expensive market. But I would say I definitely am seeing a huge trend in mold in people's HVACs, not to spread fear. I feel like sometimes with the moldy groups, we get so granule with not fear, but just people get very strong opinions. So there are clean homes out there. There's never going to be a completely fungal, sporic free home. But there is definitely, I will say, I'm starting to come into people that have some kind of filtration system in their HVAC.
That's helpful.
That's helpful. Yeah.
Is this a blue light?
There's Halo. There's different lights that you can have installed. But so I will say that things are getting better, and the more that we talk about this, and the more that we share information, I think that if we could start a coalition one day, that would be amazing. But we'll see where the needle goes. And builders are starting, because of consumers demanding that, builders are changing as well. So
what are you talking about that? And I meant to talk earlier in a different session or podcast that we did, just about what would you say and what do you believe is the cause? I have my own opinion about the increase in mold in indoor environments. I mean, I've asked my husband, because we see a lot of mold sick patients, and I have also walked through that myself, but I have my own beliefs. I'm curious what you would say.
My personal beliefs, especially, I've toured hundreds of homes now in Dallas, and I've also lived in Hawaii, which is a lot of pier and beam. I lived in Arizona, which is a lot of stucco, and I lived in Pennsylvania, which had basements, and my family are builders. They renovated and they build. I was around architectural plans my whole life, so building is in my blood. And I'm just very deep researcher in how do you regenerate through detoxification and what are toxicities in our daily life. So this twofold. In our homes, we have that passive design because of the green. We are doing things more green. So with the HVAC, you want the house more sealed.
Yes.
Homes used to breathe more. So we have these sealants on every baseboard, around the toilet, around everything is just sealed to the 10th degree. And then sometimes an AC person will sell you with a higher AC unit. So it's the BTU number is higher than what it's rated for the square footage because they made a commission. You have the HVAC. In a perfect world, you would have the HVAC in a conditioned closet, but a lot of the time we want to maximize square footage, so we put the HVAC in the attic. And so there's that not controlling the humidity, there's the not having the negative air pressure in the attic, and causation correlation. There's also been an increase in electromagnetic fields. So there's magnetic EMF from power lines, there's microvoltage from electricity, there's also radio frequencies from smart meters, Wi-Fi, and cell phone towers. We've gradually increased this exposure. The FCC has keep allotting certain frequencies out without doing the research, and then you have this cascading effect where is it this or is it this? And then I have had a lot of clients that have said, well, my family said they've had mildew in their shower. How could this be causing all of your health issues? Yeah. And it's that toxic bucket theory of people having genetic predispositions, not enough minerals.
Yes.
You have just that, compiling effect that mold was probably just that final trigger that broke the camel's back. So
what do you think are some of the misnomers that people have when you meet with your clients where they're like, really? When you tell them something, things they didn't know?
That's a great question.
We can get back to it if you're...
I guess a lot of my clients are more mold focused and not EMF. I've had some really sensitive people to electromagnetic fields. What are they?
Well, and speaking of EMF...
I guess a lot of people think that ERMI test, controversial topic in mold groups, is like the Bible of, that's the codex of mold testing. And the ERMI test was originally designed with a small vacuum. They took it as an example against 1,100 homes across the United States, and it's a PCR test, the same thing that they did with the COVID testing. So it depends on what cycle threshold they're looking for. It can hold up in court because it's breaking apart the genetic composition of the dust. Okay. But then you have that thing where your husband's a hunter, brought in all of his hunting gear to the laundry room or the extra bedroom, had it sitting there for a week, and then you put it away, and then you go do an ERMI test while you're under a contract. And then once the parents, the consumers, my buyers see that high ERMI rating, I can't differentiate if where is it coming from? That's why I feel like inspecting a house that you own is a different protocol than inspecting on a house that you don't own and you're in the buying process. You can't drill into wall cavity. Yeah. That's why the Mold Dog Knows, which is the only mold dog company that uses a certified licensed inspector that actually does a visual inspection on the outside and inside of the house, and then actually uses a third-party tested mold sample for the dogs to keep them daily calibrated. Yes. Every one of my clients, I require them to almost have a mold dog. And even on new builds, so this is a thing, I think a lot of people think new is better. When you have off-gassing, which philosophically you could bake it out and speed up the off-gassing. But when people are building homes, especially in Texas, especially in the summer, as soon as they have that drywall and the HVAC in, they turn that on. And then you collect all of that construction dust. And we know that mold grows on moisture and dust. So people think new builds are like perfect. Yeah. And just like anything made by humans can not be perfect. So I would say the misconception I would have with my consumers is that they think brand new is going to be better and the best and safer. And it can be. I like the Goldilocks of 2 to 4, 2 to 6 years because it's been off-gassed, but not enough of water vents have happened. So that would be the main one that I get is I have to sometimes talk people out of always going brand new. Okay. Yeah. That's some good information. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Keep it up. Thank you. Yeah. Go for your goals. Shoot high. I think you'll make some changes. Thank you for being with us. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being with us on All Mold Matters. We're going to have some more episodes, so we hope you'll join us. Bye-bye.